2, 1. What's up, everybody? It is Wednesday, and you're watching the late edition of the Fantasy Insiders TV Daily Fantasy MLB show. And we have with us Derek Carty. You know him from FantasyInsiders.com. He does the Daily Diamond. Did the pitchers article this morning. And we have, for the first baseball show today, Mr. Mike Leone. Mike hailing from RotoExperts.com. He and Drew Dinkmeyer do the Daily Fantasy Rundown. Mike, I see you've got your baseball jersey on. How does that feel?
It feels good, I figured I had to continue the theme from basketball season of wearing a jersey every week, so.
Okay, so how many baseball jerseys do you have is my question.
I don't know, 10 or so.
Yeah? 10 baseball jerseys?
Yeah, I think around there. You don't want to know how many jerseys I have altogether.
I do want to know, actually.
I don't know, it's got to be like 40.
Okay. Well, what about you, Derek?
I think I own an old Eddie George jersey. I think that's about the extent of it, though.
Are you a Titans fan?
I am.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you're out in Tennessee, huh?
Yeah. How are you a Titans fan?
I have no idea. When I started following football, I guess it was back like 98 or 99 when they were good. And I don't know, I liked Eddie George and McNair and those guys. So, I don't know, it kind of stuck, and I haven't, I guess, been able to work up the courage to kind of jump off that bandwagon.
Don't do it. Stay with us. we need guys like you. Well, okay, cool. Sports. Gotta love it. We're talking about the late games, and I'm a little bitter because I really just played one 270 game for the early slate just to have something to sweat. And the guy played freaking Chavez against the Twins. And I went with Shelby Miller thinking that it was the safe move. So his name was Mike Dunk, 26. And Drew said that was your alternate ego, Michael, because you love you some Chavez. Was that you?
I tried to get Drew to draft Chavez in our season-long NFBC league, and he wouldn't let me. 2 good starts that we, and that's a 15-team league, so those get pretty deep if you're wondering why I was even considering Jesse Chavez.
Well, I didn't wonder that. You had Derek. You called the McAllister call, and that worked out really well for the all-day slate on FanDuel and Draft Street and Star Street.
Yeah, McAllister was awesome today. I also picked Odorizzi, which did not work out so well, but Chavez was my third that I mentioned on Twitter. So today my morning slate was pretty good if you ignored the Odorizzi advice.
Yeah, well, that's the thing with daily fantasy baseball is that you're gonna have good days and you're gonna have bad days. So you take the good with the bad, just in the advice world, just like in the playing world. Last night, want to give a shout out to Loves Bases, Natural Slugger, Shanks-a-Lot. Shanks-a-Lot ended up winning the FanDuel qualifier, so he'll be going to Vegas. But for like a 15-minute period of time, there was like jubilation among the Fantasy Insiders people because Natural Slugger, our very own Ben Pritchett, basically had all of his guys go off. He did have freaking Murphy. The Mets just royally screwed over some people yesterday. Shout out to Drew for the harangue call. But he did have Murphy, but everybody else just went on this tear. The White Sox just started hitting home runs. He had Flowers instead of Rosario. Rosario was kind of that guy that everyone had. And he was in first for a period of time. He was getting nauseous, and then Loves overtook him, and then Shanks overtook him with Scherzer. So shout out to all three of those guys for a good showing last night. Also, The Takeover, our friend The Takeover, he's been on the show before. He won second place in the DraftKings walk-off tournament. And also, I think that was $40,000, his biggest prize yet. He finished second in another DraftKings tournament, but that was the famous Inbox tournament where Inbox had the same team 13 times. So when Inbox passed him, he went from a lot of money to not very much at all. So shout out to those guys. Also, big news in the industry yesterday. DraftKings announced $3.3 million Legends tournament in the Bahamas. And Mike, you and I are trying to fight over who goes in Drew's spot with Papa Cub.
It's got to be me.
If he qualifies.
I have to represent the business, Dave. I just got that leg up on you, I think. Meanwhile, Drew will be getting eaten by lions in Africa.
Do you ever feel bad when you say stuff like that? It's pretty morbid to say that he's going to get eaten up by lions in Africa.
I suppose if it actually happened, I would feel pretty terrible.
Yeah, you saw what happened to the Ultimate Warrior last night.
I did not.
After talking about his legacy. So words do have power, Michael, just so you know.
Oh, yeah.
But this is a $6 million event. The FanDuel claims an $8 million event, but for all intents and purposes, you've got FanDuel that came out with a $3 million tournament in Vegas, and DraftKings goes and one-ups them, kind of like how FanDuel did to DraftKings for the NBA season by going up from $1 million to $1.2 million. They go up from $3 million to $3.3 and have the tournament in the Bahamas. So, Michael, your thoughts just as far as the industry goes on these ridiculous prizes. People were wondering kind of what DraftKings was going to do when FanDuel announced their prizes, and they kind of stuck with them.
I think it's awesome. I especially enjoy the emphasis on still doing a live event. I know we didn't really get those for basketball, so I was a little bit concerned. And I'm also impressed that we're getting, the $1 million prizes for baseball. We had them for football last year, but I still thought it might take a couple years to get them for baseball. I'm just really excited where it's going, and really hoping that I can qualify for one of those events. Hopefully the DraftKings one, so I can swim with dolphins.
Swim with dolphins. They're gonna customize it to the stuff that you love. So, I emailed with John Aguiar, who is kind of heading it up today, and he was talking about how just getting the tournament out there was a process, and now they're basically going to be spending the summer kind of making sure that the live event is going to match the experience that they want. So pretty awesome stuff as far as the industry is concerned, with last night the qualifier, with the announcement for DraftKings, with the DraftKings 400K walk-off. From an industry standpoint, it just feels good that they're not backing down. There's a lot of overlay in football. There's a little bit of overlay in basketball, especially over there on DraftKings in their tournament, and even on FanDuel. It's just interesting that they are continuing to put their foot on the gas pedal, and more than that, it makes me kind of wonder about what the NFL season is going to hold. What they're going to do for NFL. It's going to be crazy. Also, I think there's going to be a lot of fish that start to trickle in, if not already. I gave a few fish a couple $100 head start on Saturday. I thought I had 6 or 7 109s that their combined wins were 100 maybe, if that. And I thought it was a lock that I was going to have a good day on Saturday, and it was not a lock. And
I did the same thing the other night. I played a bunch of people who had Ellsbury in when he sat, and I lost all of the games. It's all right. What goes around comes around, right?
Exactly.
Get them hooked.
That should have been the opening song, little Justin Timberlake. But anyways, What were we just talking about?
I don't know. I was just interrupting you as usual. You were talking about how you lost your 109s.
Oh yeah, the fish. Okay,
Yeah.
so before we get into the games, I mean, there's a relatively light slate, only 9 games tonight. There is on ESPN last night. Not only do they have like GameCast, the commercials and everything. Not only did I see watching Justified on demand this morning, a commercial for FanDuel and E. Hafner that I haven't seen before, but the whole MLB scoreboard page last night on ESPN was a FanDuel billboard. Had ads on both sides, had a little banner, special banner up top for the ESPN. I mean, you're talking about a lot of traffic that sees that. So I think as kind of DraftKings and FanDuel get into this advertising war, and FanDuel obviously has, that's kind of been their bread and butter, is just advertising. They have, they're going to bring in a lot of fish this baseball season. So hopefully the ecosystem will survive to where August is not really dry, that it'll still kind of sustain itself. With that being said, let's get into tonight's games, because I think Derek is about to be bored to tears, aren't you, Derek?
Oh no, I love this stuff. It's very exciting. Kind of, I'm much newer to all this than you are, but I love the direction the industry's going. So I love hearing about all this.
Yeah, it's fun, and it's fun to get people hooked on it. And one guy that I'm trying to get hooked on, I think he is, because he's been texting me back and forth, is a former Major League Baseball pitcher. And we're hoping to get him on a few shows. That's Jensen Lewis, used to be the closer for the Indians. And he is going to be helping out with some pitcher analysis. He does the pregame and postgame shows for the Indians on Fox Sports. But he's getting into the games. He's texting me back and forth about his lineup. So it'll be fun to see people kind of get into the industry this summer. So with that being said, speaking of pitching, Derek, I'll let you lead off. Look at me, already spitting the puns out. I'll let you lead off with your pitchers that you like for tonight's slate. Okay.
I think the easiest call tonight, especially in cash games, is going to be Jordan Zimmerman. He's up against the Marlins. You know, we saw what Gio Gonzalez did last night when I recommended him, and pretty much everyone played him, I think. And he dominated. And the thing Zimmerman has going for him today is that he has a platoon advantage against pretty much anyone in Miami's order except for Garrett Jones, whereas last night Gio kind of had to worry about Stanton and some guys like that. So Zimmerman really is kind of far and away the play tonight. But if you want to, if you're playing on a multiple pitcher site or you want a contrarian play for GPPs, I think Brandon Morrow has an awesome matchup against Houston coming into town. He's going to have the platoon advantage against all their big hitters, against Altuve and Carter and Guzman and Dominguez. Jason Castro is going to be about the only guy he has to worry about. And, Morrow, his problem, I guess, I come from traditional fantasy leagues where we think about the whole season. And the thing with Morrow is he's always a sleeper, but he can never stay healthy. In daily, it doesn't matter. He's healthy today, and that's all that matters. So, roll him out there. After that, I think Garrett Richards needs a little bit of love. Garrett Richards is just filthy in terms of stuff. He throws in the mid-90s. He has 2 just absurd breaking balls. He may have some platoon issues tonight, so that's why he's a little bit lower on my list. But I think, in general, he's valued way too low, and I think there's going to be a lot of good matchups for him in the coming weeks, tonight being a pretty good one. I think if you want to go a little bit higher, kind of between that and Zimmerman, I think Irvin Santana is going to be your guy. Harang, dominated the Mets last night, basically. Santana is even better than Harang is. He's coming over, from the American League, which, his prices are all based on playing in the American League with, a lesser catcher and a lesser team. So, playing in the National League tonight against a weak offense, throwing to a really strong catcher, I think he's in for a good night. So those are the pitchers that I would be zeroing in on.
Very nice. Yeah, we'll talk. I want to get Mike's thoughts on those top 3 pitchers: Zimmerman, Morrow, and Richards. Mike, who would be the top 3 for you tonight?
Top pitcher, I'm in agreement with Derek on Zimmerman. Sometimes I think Zimmerman can be overrated for daily fantasy just because the strikeouts aren't there and we see such an emphasis on strikeouts, but tonight's matchup is just so safe that he'll make up for any strikeout issues with, extra innings pitched and the highest likelihood of a win and just a super high floor compared to those other guys. I think I'm a little bit on an island with my number 2 pitcher, but I like Tim Lincecum at home. Of the pitchers going today, he's tied with Anibal Sanchez for the highest strikeout rate over the past 3 seasons. I love getting my strikeouts. It's a huge ballpark. We won't see some of the same issues I think we saw last week in Arizona.
Okay.
You want a third? I'm only rolling those 2.
Yeah, I want you to give me a contrarian play now.
I like Zach Wheeler a lot. He's got a lot of strikeout potential. That lineup strikes out a ton, and they've been having their problems offensively early. So he's a guy I'm looking at as like a third starting pitcher on Draft Street. I'm not going super contrarian on one starting pitcher sites. I'm pretty much sticking to Zimmerman in cash games, and then I like Lincecum a lot for your tournament lineups. And Morrow, you can fit almost anyone in your hitting lineup with Morrow there. A lot of strikeout potential, a lot of win potential. I like Lincecum a hair more because I think he's safer.
Yeah,
which is weird to say.
Morrow 5,100 on FanDuel, 8.4 on DraftKings, which is kind of in the middle of the road. Draft Street, of course, there's not really a big break on there. 17.6, Draft Day 11.6, but especially on FanDuel, Morrow looks to be like you said, if you're using him, you can go basically whoever you want. Kyle says in the chat that BG Upton is out today, so that's a sad face for Wheeler.
It is. I wrote that in the lineup alerts that it actually would have been better for Wheeler if Upton was in. More strikeout potential and one less left-handed bat he would have had to deal with. Yeah. But I'm not scared off of him because of that. It just would have been better if Upton was in and not Schaefer.
And it's okay if you're scared. We all get scared every once in a while. As far as the games where Vegas has them tonight, just going over Washington as an over-under is 7 with Washington being minus 200 favorites. So I mean that's a pretty big. That kind of tells you that Vegas is heavily favoring a Zimmerman win tonight. You also have Toronto at minus 200, but the over-under for runs is a 9. But still, again, at where Morrow's price is, at that 5,100 range, you could fit whoever you want. And just like that guy who played Chavez against me today, he could basically get in any bats that he pleased. And at 5,100, you have one cheap punt play, and you can load up everywhere else. So I guess that I would be more inclined to go Morrow for a tournament play and Zimmerman for a cash game play. But if there's a game that you really liked, I don't see anything wrong with using Morrow in a cash game. I think that he's okay to do that. Talking about kind of the high octane offenses, this Toronto team, like you said, at minus 200 at over under of 9 means that they're the top offensive team. And I know that you, in the Roto Experts Daily Fantasy Rundown, you guys have Joey Bats as the guy that you want to spin, Mike.
Yeah, we have him as our number 1 ranked hitter in our model today. Right-handed power is really enhanced in the Rogers Center. Lucas Harrell, he does keep the ball on the ground a little bit, but he allows like over a 330 weighted on base average to both right-handed and left-handed bats. I think this is a game where Toronto could chase him early, and Bautista, I've seen him plenty of times beat up on those bad bullpens. He just has so much upside today. I really like him. And Edwin Encarnacion, too. I mean, they're both kind of obvious plays today, but The Blue Jays have a 5.5 team total. That's the highest on the day. So if you're looking to mini stack a team, even for cash games, I think they're the team to do it with.
Yeah, I mean, looking at other teams that you might be able to do it with.
Yeah, that's interesting because I think the Blue Jays would probably be like the third or fourth team I would go with for a stack today.
Who do you think the top two would be for you?
I think there's a lot of good plays on the Angels today. I think there's a lot of good plays on the Nationals, obviously, and I think the Yankees have good plays too. I think I'd put all three of them before I go with the Blue Jays stack. Mostly because, I mean, Harrell is not a good pitcher at all, but he does keep the ball on the ground, and he does have the platoon advantage against, all the big Blue Jays you'd want to put in there, Joey Bats and E5 and whoever else. So I'd be more comfortable, especially if I'm spending that kind of big money, on going with, like, say, Mike Trout today over Batista, where he's going to be up against a similarly weak pitcher, but where he has, some more contextual factors in his favor.
Mike.
Well, I'm looking at Harrell's, splits. He doesn't really show much of a platoon edge versus right-handed batters, so I'm not overly concerned about that. I do like the Yankees as well, but a couple of the teams I've even got ahead of the Angels would be the Pirates and the Cubs. With that wind blowing out in Wrigley, we're seeing that total rise that can really affect offense there. We've seen totals sway like almost 3 runs solely based on the wind there. So I like usually I don't take McCutchen against right-handed pitching, but he's my second favorite outfielder. Well, I like Trout's always up there, but I don't see any reason to spend on him. He's so much more than all the other outfielders that for cash games I'm having a tough time justifying putting him in. But then you've got, Neil Walker at second base. There's not a ton of second base options today. He's a guy I like in that game. Pedro Alvarez at third base.
Alvarez is awesome in that game today, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think Alvarez and Sandoval are the 2 third basemen you want to focus on.
Wind blowing out 15 miles per hour. And like you said, Pedro batting cleanup on, I think he's still just 3.6 on FanDuel at that third base spot. So, let's see. Yep, 3.6. So, David Freese, to your call about the Angels, 2.7. I love the fact that that we're getting some nerd wars going on. Like, it's, Mike point, Derek point, and just going back and forth. If Davis was on the show, he could be telling us as far as the debate goes.
Yeah, wait, wasn't he just out of town for his extracurricular activity, he called it?
Yeah. It's called, instead of debate club, they call it forensics, and that's how he got a free scholarship to college. So I ain't mad at you, player.
Yeah, that's good for him.
So he has been doing it for 8 years. I think that's how he met his girlfriend. So arguments between them would be fun, I'm guessing. But yeah, he is back today, and so he is going to be back with us. Everyone has kind of missed Davis. I mean,
Definitely.
He grows on you, and he's like everyone's little brother. And I call him the troubled little brother I never had growing up. So we're excited to get him back in the mix as far as Fantasy Insiders are concerned. You do have wind. Let's see, where was it that I was looking at? Oh, kind of blowing to right field, a little bit in 13 miles per hour in Atlanta. So that kind of goes to your Santana play, maybe more of a cash game play, or not a cash game, a GPP play there against the Mets, who are struggling, as are the Braves. Wind in New York is blowing out at 18 miles per hour towards right field.
Ooh, that picked up. That's definitely juicy with that short porch and right.
Yeah, you got a short porch. You got Gonzalez, who's a righty, and so you've You got some lefties.
Ellsbury, Beltran, McCann, KJ, all looking good today in that with that wind blowing out.
And you know who I
Two
like?
right field.
The other guy I like is Soriano. We get a reverse split special. Gonzalez has given up, I think 1.7 home runs per 9 right-handed bats. Some of that's inflated with a high home run to fly ball rate, but still showing some pretty strong reverse splits in his career. And Soriano actually leads all Yankees in isolated power against right-handed alert, called a tale of two hands. So I guess the good thing was that was my best lineup alert title ever, in my opinion.
Can we talk about?
Yeah, we can move on from that.
No. I mean, it's interesting stuff. Ben Pritchett did the same thing. He always gets Sonny Gray's hand mixed up. He always thinks that he is a righty. Drew said I was going to make fun of his title. It is no pace no problem. Okay. For the NBA. At first I was looking at the MLB stuff and the title is Joey Bats is Wednesday's top hitter. I was like, well, that's kind of bland. But then I remember that Drew is doing the NBA and it's no pace and then parentheses RS, no problem. So, yeah, okay, Drew. I'll give you that.
That's right up Drew's alley.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
He's got a knack for those.
The eye callus joke is still still one of my favorite jokes that Papa Cub said yesterday. All right, let's move on to specific plays. Before we get into the whole position by position, which can be a little bit monotonous, as far as punt plays go, what position, what player would you like to use a punt play on? Mike, I'll start with you.
For an extreme punt play on Draft Street, I like Chris Carter. Morrow's kind of had reverse splits. Again, Roger Center enhances right-handed power. That's only on Draft Street, though, because of the way their pricing system works. He's so much cheaper than the average player that you can get him in there, hope he hits a home run, and if he doesn't, it still lets you get in some really good pitching and hitting elsewhere.
Okay. Derek?
I think there's a few options today. I think if you don't go with someone like McCann, a catcher, you can go cheaper with Chris Iannetta. Part of my Angels stack that I kind of recommend. I think in Toronto, I think Macer's Turris is a good punt play. I think Kelly Johnson for the Yankees is pretty cheap and a good play today. So those would be some of the guys I'd be looking at.
Macer is Turris, definitely.
He's batting second tonight, right?
Yeah, batting second.
Yeah.
And 2.2K on FanDuel opens up a lot.
Yeah, that's the minimum, I think.
Yeah. As does Navarro, batting in the 6th spot for catcher. So I do like McCann tonight. But looking at, I think Turris might be one of my favorites. I generally like to punt the middle infield, so maybe, no, I was going to say Neil Walker, but he's not really a punt play. I mean, he's at 3K, but not a bad play. I mean, you talked about him earlier, Mike.
Yeah, I like him. I'm not looking to really punt anywhere on FanDuel. I don't know if you have to. I think there's enough value plays that you don't have to punt. If I was going to do it...
Morrow.
Yeah, especially if you go Morrow, you definitely don't have to. But even if you go Zimmerman, you can kind of load up on value plays. If I am going to punt, though, I agree. Turris is the guy to do it with on FanDuel just because that's such, bare minimum at second base.
Yeah, and Derek, I don't think that Mike is going Morrow. He said that basically he thinks Morrow is a stupid play.
No, I like Morrow a lot, but I've learned on FanDuel you pay for that safe starting pitcher almost all the time, and you're going to win your cash games more often than not.
Oh, yeah?
Morrow
I've got a 270 game today where I'm using Shelby Miller, and the other guy is using freaking Chavez, and I would like to argue that with that game.
Oh, I mean, Morrow definitely, I think he's got the same upside as Zimmerman. maybe even more with the strikeouts, although the strikeouts and innings pitched might cancel each other out. But it's that floor. I mean, Zimmerman, what's your worst case scenario? Like 10 points there? Are you really not getting 10 points out of him? Whereas Morrow, you can end up with a blow-up outing that you're not going to get out of Zimmerman. It's all about the floor is why I like Zimmerman, not necessarily because I don't think Morrow can't pay off.
Or you could easily end up with 8 points plus 4 points for the win and get 12 points as a floor if you think that the floor is there right there for.
If you're saying Morrow's floor is 8, I'm playing Morrow in cash games.
Okay, well that's what I'm saying. His floor is 8. Play him.
Then, well, yeah, if you're saying his floor is 8 without the win, I'm with you.
Okay. But you like Lincecum more than Morrow.
I do.
All right.
I already talked enough about Lincecum.
Yeah, I know. So from Lincecum to Morrow, get it? Let's move on to catcher. Specific catcher plays that we like. McCann, Navarro, anybody else that you like, Mike?
Wellington Castillo against a lefty, again, in that game with the wind blowing out. He's kind of, if you want someone in between Iannetta as a cheap play and McCann as a top play, Castillo is kind of your guy in the middle there.
Yeah, batting 7th. Any specific other catcher plays for you? You talked about Iannetta, I think. Derek?
Yep.
Assuming he's in the lineup.
Yeah, we don't have a lineup yet, but those are the guys that I would go with. I think Castillo is a decent play tonight, especially with that wind blowing out. I do think Wendy Rodriguez is, a pretty good pitcher, so I'd probably go either McCann or Iannetta, but Wellington Castillo could definitely have, be a solid play too.
All right, first base. Guys that you like at first. Mike?
Well, top play is Edwin Encarnacion. Well, top play is Miguel Cabrera, but I have the same kind of theory with him as I do with Trout, where I just don't find it worth paying for, especially in a neutral matchup for him today. So other than that, I've got Edwin Encarnacion, closely followed by Chris Davis. As far as value plays, I think you're looking at Adam Lind and Brandon Belt.
What about you, Derek?
I like the Lind and Belt plays. I think Albert Pujols should definitely be added to that list as well. Those are the guys I'd be looking at.
I'm just not sure I want to pay for Pujols because his price hasn't really dropped. But if you're a big believer in the Angels tonight, I can see you using him. Ben wrote up Mike Olt, and it kind of reminds me of Arrested Development. Have either of you seen Arrested Development?
Steve Holt.
Love it.
So yes, that's what it reminds me of. But he is batting 5th for the Cubs and would be a decent cheap option. But he lists Goldie as his number 1. Keep in mind. Oh my
God!
What's that?
I know where this is going.
Okay, here's where it is going. He's saying basically that he hasn't put a lot of stock into batter versus pitcher data. But he puts a lot of stock into Lincecum versus Goldie data. And he doesn't like Lincecum's stuff and has full confidence, as he puts it, especially with Trumbo protecting him now, that not only did he take him yard earlier this season, small sample size, but he will do it again. I may be putting a little bit of words in his mouth, but that's kind of what he says as far as having Goldie as number 1. And Kyle in the chat also likes Goldie. So,
well, I think, it's. I don't usually pay attention to pitcher versus batter. In an extreme case like this, I'll give it some merit. 6 home runs and 23 at bats, 12 for 23. But you still need to put together the other contextual evidence. Last week at Chase Field, high total. Okay, I'll play that PVB. Use it as my top play. But San Francisco might be the best pitcher's park in the entire league. Arizona has, I think, the second lowest team total on the night. So when you put that contextual evidence around it, I don't see how you can put him above, Edwin Encarnacion, Chris Davis, Albert Pujols, unless the only site that I really see considering him is Draft Street, just because they price for platoon, so he's a little bit cheaper in the righty-righty matchup.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think the park there is going to kill a lot of the upside on that pick. And, I mean, it's tough to ignore batter-pitcher splits like that when it's so extreme, but it's not like it's going to be the deciding factor for me.
All right, second base. Chase Utley, do we have any news on him for tonight?
He's out. I'm pretty sure that lineup came out, and he's not.
Yeah, he is not in the lineup. I don't think I would have liked him anyway, but...
Okay, who do you like then, Derek?
I like Anthony Rendon for the Nationals. I like Howie Kendrick with the Angels. Kelly Johnson where he qualifies. I think Scooter Gennett, I think you pronounce it, Scooter Gennett, I think is a good cheap play where his price warrants it.
Michael?
I like Rendon as well. He's hitting second tonight. Hand gives up, huge power numbers to right-handed batters. And if you look at the data, it could be even worse. The home run to fly ball rate is a little bit lower than league average. The BABIP's lower than league average. So as bad as his numbers are versus right-handed batters, they could be even worse. I like Neil Walker, as we talked about before, as a mid-tier value play. I also am not quite as bullish on Garrett Richards as Derek is, so I don't mind paying up for Robinson Cano where you can fit it in.
Yes.
Yeah, I think Cano could give him some trouble. Richards is kind of one of my guys where the numbers don't really back me up on him, but kind of my scouting pedigree is where a lot of that Garrett Richards play comes in, because I think his stuff is so good. And what's up?
Whoa. You just threw in the scouting pedigree.
Boom.
Whoa.
Throwing it down.
No, I have heard a couple people that really like Richards coming into the season. It's just right now I'm still kind of relying on his previous numbers, and just so much. Even though the Mariners aren't good, they've got a lot of left-handed batters, and that's where Richards' issues have been thus far.
Michael, did those people that told you that about Richards, did they go to scout school?
One of them was Ron Chandler. He's a pretty...
wow. Both you guys, name
I read it in his book. I didn't talk to Ron Chandler.
Jeez Louise. Trying to one-up each other. Come on, guys. I
was backing Derek up.
We are a team here. We are a freaking team. All right. Well,
if you're just up on you, Dave.
Shut it. If you're just now joining us, this is the InsidersTV Daily Fantasy MLB Show. Joining us, we have Derek Carty, and we have Michael Leone from his own tanning bed that he has there in Buffalo. So very nice to have both these guys with us. We're talking about second base, and Rendon is how you want to pronounce it. So thank you to Kyle for saying that. So we have basically Rendon, and I want to throw out as a contrarian play. No, never mind. I won't because I don't want to throw out Cano as a contrarian play, because both of you guys are trying to talk to me about Richards. But I do think if you have to spend, it's okay to spend on Cano tonight.
I would be okay with that too. If there's someone that's going to give Richards trouble, it's going to be Cano. Cano's matchup is fairly positive against Richards. I'm kind of just hoping Richards can skate past it if I play him as a contrarian play, as a cheap option today.
Let's see. Papa Cub says he once stayed at Motel 6, so he's considered for the scout team. Fourth and 20 wants to know Russell Martin and E5 or Castro and Belt. Mike, I'll let you take that question.
I like Martin and E5 just because I think with the high total in that Pittsburgh game, the drop off from Castro to him isn't, that big, and I have E5 as my best first base play after Miggy, so I'll go with that side.
Right.
Yeah, I think I go the other way. I'm just not buying into E5 as heavily tonight, and I think Belt has a good matchup.
Ooh, very nice. We should start putting some bets on this stuff. Like we'll call it like Nerd Wars, like Daily Fantasy Baseball Nerd Wars. And I'm the dumb jock, so I will just keep score and let you guys do all the bets. And I will send a bunny suit to whoever wants to go. Well, hello, we have a special guest from Michael's cat. Adorable Michael. All right, third base. Miggy Cabrera, is he like where he's third base eligible? Is he on any of your radar as far as spending on bats tonight? Mike?
No.
Derek?
Nope.
Okay, well, there you have it. Who are some third basemen that you do like tonight?
I like Pablo Sandoval and Alvarez as the top two, and I like the one angel I'm with on Derek. I really like David Freeze's price and his spot in the lineup for a cheaper option.
We have Papa Cub saying that I finally got to third base, and DP saying that basically you're trying to bring something on the show, Mike, to be like Tommy G. I do like Pedro. I do like Freeze on FanDuel at 2,700. He's a pretty good value for that Angels team. But I think Pedro, with that wind, certainly provides the most upside for tonight.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Derek.
No, you're good.
We've talked about, Belt and now Sandoval, and that's because we haven't specifically said it, but Bronson Arroyo's numbers against lefties are pretty crazy. I mean, 3 years worth of data, he's given over 2 home runs per 9 to left-handed batters, which is pretty insane. So you kind of want to try and get one left-handed bat in there where you can, just for that upside, even in a big park.
We have
and in terms of Sandoval, even though he's not a lefty, he's a switch hitter, but my system has him as the most extreme switch hitter in terms of platoon splits favorably in this matchup.
Let's see. We have a question, Solarte, question mark. Basically, he's had a pretty good start to the season. Thoughts on him? We talked about the Yankees team. Mike, your thoughts?
He's not someone I'm really targeting tonight.
Me either. I haven't gotten a good look at him yet, but from what I've heard, I mean, his pedigree doesn't support, this kind of performance that he's put up. The matchup tonight is less than ideal given some of the other options on his own team and at the position. So he's not someone I'd be looking at tonight.
All right. If you have any other questions, feel free to ask. Looning About says Santana or Morrow for cash games. I think that Derek is on the Morrow side, but he did mention Santana also. Derek, putting words in your mouth, but I'm guessing you're going to go Morrow.
Yeah, I give Morrow a bit of an edge, although Santana is a good play as well. I think it maybe depends a little bit on the prices, but Morrow overall, I think, gives you the most value tonight.
Mike?
I actually cheated in my starting pitcher rankings together and listed them as 4A and 4B. So I have them pretty even. I think I would go with Morrow, all things equal, but Santana's probably a touch safer.
All right, let's get to shortstops, and then we'll dive into outfielders to end up the show. Shortstops, basically, is it you've got Castro, who went nuts last night. You have in Desmond, who I think might be the only guy I'm taking a look at tonight. Mike, what about you?
I want to go on a rant about, at one point, I don't know if this is the team that ended up winning the FanDuel, but someone had Castro and got 2 home runs out of him, playing him against Charlie Morton, which is like so improbable based on his splits and his ground ball rate. I was shocked.
I saw that. I was like flabbergasted that some people kind of had him and just cashed in so heavily last night. I didn't see that coming at all.
Yeah, that was. But I do like him tonight against the lefty. My problem I'm having is I like a lot of these right-handed bats for Chicago, but I wouldn't use a bunch of them in my lineup because Wandy Rodriguez is a good pitcher. I want some exposure, but I want to go overboard. Shortstop might be the spot to do it, but I think him and Desmond are pretty good plays. Desmond, you get that power upside from a right-handed bat, and going up against Hand, who we've already talked about, has his issues with right-handed batters.
Yeah, I think Desmond is my guy today. I think Castro is okay. I like Desmond better. I think if you want to punt the position tonight, I think maybe Brandon Crawford you could do okay with.
Yeah, and if you like the Yankees, if you want to use them, you could also go with Jeter, 2.8 on FanDuel. Mike, you want to?
Yeah, I like Jeter on FanDuel, but not much elsewhere. FanDuel is more like on-base percentage weighted, and I like Jeter in the second spot in that lineup there. But he doesn't really run or hit for power against righties, so on other sites that there's more of an emphasis on offensive scoring, I'm less inclined to use Jeter over the other guys we talked about.
All right, let's get to outfield now. Basically, you've got this Toronto that Mike, you and I kind of think are the most powerful hitting team tonight with Joey Bats, and you also have Melky in the outfield, just hit a home run last night as well. You have Beltran going up for the Yankee squad. Derek, you talked about Trout for the Angels. Talk to me about outfitters that you like tonight, Michael.
Yeah, I mean, aside from the ones we mentioned, I wrote up Jason Worth. I like him a lot. He's got, a 215 ISO against left-handed pitching since 2011. We know he sees him well. His eye is .79, so he's a strong play. Anyone in the Yankees outfield you can make an argument for. Like I said, I really like Soriano reverse splits kind of against reverse splits. At least power-wise, there's some upside there. And then if you're going like a cheaper type play, I like Ruggiano hitting third in that Cubs lineup with the wind blowing out. He's got, let me look it up. I don't have it in front, but he's got, here it is. The last few seasons, I mean, not a huge sample size, 300 plate appearances, but a 274 ISO against left-handed pitching. That's huge. I think he's way underpriced, relative to that potential.
Yeah, Ruggiano's true platoon split from my system is huge. I mean, he basically shouldn't be playing against righties. It's so big, so.
Okay.
So there is some worry, when the game gets to the bullpen that he'll waste an at bat or get pinch hit for. But the hope there is that, in the first 2-3 at bats, he can do enough damage to outweigh the negative value later in the game.
All right. Well, talk to me about outfielders that you like tonight, Derek.
We've mentioned a lot of them already. I think Trout's the big guy. I think in the Yankees outfield, you can also look at, you mentioned Beltran, but I think you can look at Ellsbury and Gardner too. Jason Worth, awesome play that Mike mentioned. Melky in Toronto, I like. Let's see. Yeah, those are kind of the big guys that I'm zeroing in on. I think maybe Rasmus in Toronto you could do if you want to, go a little cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice. As far as I want to show people as we end the show, this new FanDuel feature. Told people I would roll it out yesterday. Some people do not have it. So it's not that I'm trying to brag. Well, it is that I'm trying to brag. But I want to show people how easy it is now to enter some of the games. Mike, do you have this feature yet?
I don't know what the feature is, so I doubt it.
So no, you don't, is what you're saying. Is that what you're saying? Can you just
That
say,
is what I'm saying.
Yeah, just
I do
say
not.
Just don't say I don't have the feature, because you would know if you had it or not. Just say no. I'm not privy to the feature.
It just hurts me to throw you a bone like that. So.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. If you do have any questions for us, feel free to ask them in the chat. Best catcher tonight, I think we're all on McCann as the top option. Would you both agree with that?
I would.
Yes.
And thoughts on Granderson tonight? Derek, I'll let you take that comment since you like the Yankees.
He is a Met now, believe it or not.
That's what I meant.
He yeah, I'm not a big Granderson tonight. I think Santana's a good pitcher. I mean, Grandy's got the platoon split thing going for him tonight, but I think Santana's quality is just beyond the point where I'd feel comfortable with him at his price level, considering some of the other options that are out there, especially since there's really no other factors kind of work in his favor. No wind, no ballpark shift. If anything, he's maybe losing a little bit on the ballpark if his prices are based on playing in Yankee Stadium last year. So,
all right. And Mike, what amount of wind miles per hour makes you reconsider lineups? That from Papa Cup.
It kind of depends on the ballpark and the day, and I mean the temperature matters as well. But when you start looking at overtime miles per hour is when I really start to give some thought to it. But it's just like one factor of many. Like I've been talking about it a lot in Chicago, the game in Wrigley, just because it's been shown to have such an effect on scoring there.
Yeah. Okay. Derek, anything that you want to add to that? How much does wind factor in kind of into your predictive model where you see things?
Wind is something I'm currently building into the predictive model. The way I'm looking at it is complicated. So at present, the queries that I'm running to kind of show just how important wind is, they're taking days to run. So we're in the midst of trying to cut that down so we can kind of get a more concrete answer. So, I mean, just rule of thumb, I kind of look 10, 15 miles an hour. That's when I start paying attention. But, I don't have anything concrete.
Yeah, and it's tough. I mean, I don't have the data, but I've heard, at least anecdotally, some people mention that in different ballparks, like Texas, when it's actually blowing in a little bit, it creates a wind tunnel and the ball carries more. I mean, I don't know the validity of that, so it's something that you don't want to, take into account too much if you're not even sure what the exact result is. I mean, if it's something... You want to be sure what you're measuring is having the effect that you think it has before you have it change your decisions.
All right. Here is the new basically feature. So it looks like it did, and I have specifically edited the shot so you cannot see how low my balance is there here on FanDuel. But if you want to enter, especially these multi-entry teams, so let's say you want to enter a bunch of seats with this King of the Diamond satellite. So you want to enter a train of 3 or 4. What you do is you want to click enter, like so. It brings up a pop-up box, and then you just click enter lineup. And then you got one entry. You enter, click it again, you've got 2 entries. Click it again, 3 entries, click it again, 4 entries. And all of your lineups will appear on this page. So I just have one basically filler lineup that I did real quick that I don't even know if any of these guys are starting. So, but it'll have whatever. So if you make 4 or 5 different lineups, you'll see all of your lineups right here, and you just click enter, 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 enter. So if you make 3 or 4 tournament lineups, you can go to every tournament and just click that button for each one, and however many. So if you want to stack, or if you want to do a train of 2 or 3 entries, you can. So very cool feature there that FanDuel has. Mike, first question for you. How jealous are you that I have this feature and you don't, and you do not?
Like a 10 out of 10. I've never been more jealous of you, other than maybe your speed in a short distance race.
Well, that's only because it's true. Derek, I will toast to that, my friend. Good show, guys. If Papa Cub wants to know how do you get this feature, FanDuel basically replied yesterday on Twitter and said that they're rolling it out slowly. So I guess they have a list of high importance to not so high importance. So yeah, that will do it for today's show. Mike, why don't you tell people where they can reach you at?
Yeah, if you go to rotoexperts.com/daily, you'll see the daily fantasy rundown header. That's where Drew and I have all our content. We're doing daily MLB, finishing up daily NBA. So, check us out.
Very nice. And Derek, Papa Cub want to know about your Batman shirt. Do you want to tell people about your Batman shirt and what the significance might be there, other than you really like Batman?
Yeah, the name that I've kind of been calling my projection system that I'm building is Batman with an algorithm or a anagram built into it. Basically because Batman is awesome, like my system is going to be, and because my system has lots of like tools and gadgets and stuff, analogous to Batman. So that's kind of the whole Batman significance for me.
Very nice. Appreciate both you guys joining me on the show today. We will be back tomorrow. Mr. Napster Man and Mr. Tuttle 05 will be on the show. So two guys that have won a lot of tournaments, that have qualified for a lot of tournaments. Mike, you're laughing. Is it because you think you're better than them?
No, I'm laughing at something unrelated.
Okay. Because I thought that was pretty rude that you said that right when I said that they won a lot of stuff. Like, it was kind of a snarky laugh, but it's
No,
okay.
no, you're always trying to cause trouble, Dave.
Oh, really? I'm not the one that laughed when I was trying to compliment them. But anyways, they'll be on tomorrow's show, 5 p.m. Eastern to 6 p.m. Eastern. Join us then. We'll have some sort of competition. Nap is like a little kid. He loves prizes, loves to give away things. So he will be coming up with some sort of contest or game for us all to be in. So tune in then. Guys, appreciate you being on the show, and we'll see you tomorrow. We're not off yet. Mike, wait till I stop the stream before you start insulting anybody else.